Welcome to Rising Crime. A few days ago, I saw that the mayor of New Orleans, Latoya Cantrell, that she had said that if they continued with their police shortage, they were maybe going to have to cancel Mardi Gras next year. And immediately the next day, everything came out that she was saying, no, I didn't mean to say that. That's not what I meant. I didn't want to cancel it. But when she said it, she said, if you don't have adequate police, it could mean there will be no Mardi Gras. That's a fact. That's what she said Thursday night. Then Friday, she came out and said that she didn't wish to cancel Mardi Gras, but it seemed to indicate that she would consider it because the festivities could endanger officers. And these are what her words were. When it comes to jeopardizing the safety of the men and women who make the ultimate sacrifice and kiss their families when they leave every day and hope to come at night or in the morning, they are the priority. So that actually sounds like she actually cares about the police officers. She either legitimately cares about the police officers or she's trying to make it sound like she cares about the police officers and she's just using them as a reason to cancel Mardi Gras, should they happen to cancel Mardi Gras. From what I can tell, the police force in New Orleans should have about 1,600 officers, and right now they have under 1,000. And it's said that they have 60% of the officers that they need. They have 60% of the the EMS people that they need. Across the board, they're at 60%. So they lost a lot of people. And this year, they had shortened a lot of the routes of the major parades due to the police officer shortage, and they didn't think that they were going to be able to keep things safe. So some of the routes of the major ones were cut down, and some of them cut down quite a bit. Now, I've never been to Mardi Gras. I've been to New Orleans, which I actually really liked it, but that was a while ago, and it seemed pretty safe at the time when I was there. So I looked up a little bit of information on Mardi Gras, and I guess the phrase Mardi Gras is French for Fat Tuesday, which is the day before Ash Wednesday that it's celebrated on. And it's actually, I didn't even realize this, that it's 2 weeks of celebration, 2 weeks of parades down there. I didn't realize it was that long. It's unknown when they first started celebrating Mardi Gras in New Orleans, but the first recorded celebration of it in the state of Louisiana was on March 2nd, 1699. So this is something that's been going on for a long time. So for them to cancel it, it would have to be something major to cancel it. But New Orleans hasn't been safe for a while, but it's gotten out of control since 2020. And they did like a survey on people where they asked them in 2020, 57% of the residents said that they felt safe. And in 2021, 35% said they felt safe. And I imagine if you talk to them this year, that number's gone down quite a bit. When people are calling the police, they're waiting hours for stuff that the city's saying they should get a response in like 10 minutes. And the average response time, I guess, for the major stuff is like 13 minutes, but the smaller stuff, it's taking forever to get people out there just because they're so short-staffed. But this whole defund the police movement, many people have many different views on what the actual goal of this is. Because there is a goal. Somebody's masterminding this whole thing. You don't just go out and say defund the police if you don't have a larger plan in mind. If you don't have something you want to achieve. And I believe the goal of all this is that they want to get rid of all the local police. They don't want local police forces. They want to get rid of the local police, and they want an entire federal police force where the police are controlled by the federal government and not by the states. This is really bad for the people if this is what happens, but really good for the people in charge. So I don't really have any data on this saying that this is what they're doing or anything like that. It's just a gut feeling. Especially now, it really became something that I've really been thinking about after this new IRS thing where they added those 87,000 IRS agents and they got them going through like basically the same kind of training you'd put a cop through so that they know how to use a gun. And when they apply, it says you have to be willing to use deadly force. So if they're going to make the IRS agents armed and require them to be willing to use deadly force, that's kind of goes on this whole thing of having a federal police force. Because the IRS isn't a group of people that should be out arresting people or even carrying guns. I watched the video. I don't know if anyone's seen that video. There's a video going around that's the training of these people. And there are none of them that I saw in that video that look like they should even be holding a gun, let alone go out with a gun that's loaded and try to arrest people because they owe $20 in taxes or whatever. So this whole thing is, there's a bigger thing here, a bigger picture that we're not all seeing yet. We don't know what it is yet. But I believe that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to demoralize the local police so they completely go away or become irrelevant because there's not enough of them to even do anything. And then the feds have to come in with their own police force, which will not be the same as having a local police force. And they're going to come in and they're just going to take over. So I looked up the murders, which is basically the only crime I really focus on. I'm sure all the crimes are bad there, but I looked up the murders for the last few years. And in 2019, New Orleans actually had a 50-year low with 121 murders. Okay, 50-year low. Then 2020, of course, the summer of Floyd hits, and they jump up to 201. So from 2019 to 2020, it went from 121 to 201. And then in 2021, it went to 202. And there was a different site that I looked at. It was called the New Orleans Community Crime Map that actually showed 2020 having 220 homicides and 2021 having 222 homicides. So that site apparently picked up 20 others. Sometimes they count the justifiable homicides and sometimes they don't. So the number might be different than that, but the FBI went with the 201 number in 2020 and 202 in 2021. And right now, again, there's different information. New Orleans must put out different information, but the murders right now in New Orleans are around 170. That's the best that I could find. And that puts them on pace for around 260 murders for this year. I also found a different place that said there had been 182 as of August 9th, which with what I could find that came after August 9th, they'd be at least 185 right now. Regardless, it's somewhere between 170 and 185. And the point of the whole thing is the murder rate. And their murder rate will be close to 70 to 75 by the end of the year, which is really high. That's a really high murder rate. You take a city like Chicago, and Chicago's going to have 2 to 3 times as many murders, but their murder rate will be like 20 to 25. So having a murder rate of 70 to 75 is very large. Philly, they'll have about 550 probably murders by the end of the year, but their murder rate will still only be like 34 because these are much larger cities. Chicago has a population of 2.7 million people. And if they have 700 murders at the end of the year, their murder rate's still 20, 25 because the city is so big and the murder rate goes on a per 100,000 person basis. Philly too, it's 1.6 million people. They're going to have close to 550 probably by the end of the year. And their murder rate will be, 35-ish, 34, 35. But New Orleans has only 385,000 people. It's the 52nd largest city in America. Chicago is 7 times that size, but will only have 2.5 times the murders. Another city that has a murder rate this high is Fairfield, Alabama. Their murder rate is around 75 every year, but they have a population of 11,000. So 8 murders with a population of 11,000 gives you a murder rate of 75. So not a lot of people, a lot of murders for that small of a number of people, but not a lot of murders at 8. And so I looked at the violent crime rate in New Orleans, and it's 242% higher than the US average, which that is bad on itself. But there are at least 3 neighborhoods that are over 400% higher. The Holy Cross neighborhood is 436% higher than the national average. The Viavant Venetian Isles is 446% higher. And that neighborhood had over 2,000 reported incidents of violent crime in 2020. And the town has a population of 983 people. Over 2,000 violent crime incidents reported with a population of 983. So everybody that lives in that town basically was a victim of a violent crime at least twice. And the 7th Ward, this was the neighborhood I found with the highest violent crime rate. The 7th Ward, the violent crime rate is 622% higher than the national average. Now that's one of the highest that you really see. There's some cities or some neighborhoods in some cities where they go up over 1,000. Like in Baltimore and stuff, they'll go up over 1,000. So I guess compared to that, 622 isn't that high. And the bulk of the murders are all in a few neighborhoods, but they're happening everywhere across the city. If you look at a map of where all the homicides have happened, it literally covers the entire city. And there's big bulks where, the majority are happening, but they're staggered and they're spread out everywhere across the city. The majority of the people that are the victims in these are people of color, and mostly black people, because the demographics of New Orleans is 59% black, 31% white, 5% Hispanic, and 3% Asian. And the majority, over 80% of the victims are black. And you can't blame this stuff on the white man. When the mayor is black, the police superintendent is black, the DA is black, and basically everyone in charge of the city on any kind of higher level is black. So this isn't a white person issue. So I looked into some of the murders they have. And just to see what they're like. And the majority of them are just, the only thing you can find on them is, oh, this person was found shot on the street, or oh, this person was found shot laying in a front yard, or this person was found dead in their house. And there was a lot of them that were shootings of family members that they would be at a party and somebody would get mad at somebody else. They'd have an argument and somebody pull out a gun and they would just shoot people. And the majority of them were just really just completely senseless killings. I mean, I've been in a fight with my sister 1,000,000 times, and I never once did I ever think of pulling out a gun and shooting her. But this is how problems are being resolved now in certain communities, is they're resolving their problem, they're winning the argument by pulling out a gun and shooting the person. And when the person dies, I guess you got the last word in that argument. But I did come across one story that happened. This happened earlier this year. This guy, 68-year-old Herman Charles, and he was an owner of a gospel music radio station. And him and his wife were watching TV. It was a Sunday night. And their son, Chad, who was 30 years old, he was an artist and apparently a model. He was also in the living room and he was reading the Bible. And he began to read it louder and louder. And the behavior was odd. But Herman Charles told his wife, "Don't worry about it. Go to bed. I'll watch out for our son." So the wife goes to bed. And at the same time, the son decides to go into his room. So Herman goes to talk to the son. He said, "God is with you. You know we live the right way." The wife heard Herman say that. Then she heard a gunshot, and she got up and she saw her husband was bleeding on the floor. And she said to her son, "Chad, you just shot Daddy." So she goes and she calls 911, and then she calls her 2 brothers who live nearby, and they came over, and all of them waited outside for the police to show up. Then her son suddenly emerges from the house, waving the gun around that he used to kill his father. And his uncle started begging him to put the gun down, so he did. And then he went back inside the house. he saw his father lying dead on the floor, returned to the front porch, and told his mother and his uncles that he couldn't live if his father was dead, and then shot himself in the face while the family watched. And the story read as if he didn't realize he had shot his father. Like he shot and killed him and then didn't realize it till he had gone all the way back in the house and saw him lying there dead. I don't understand how some of this stuff happens. The mental illness in this country needs to be addressed, and it's not. You know, they got rid of all those mental institutions a long time ago because there was a bad stigma, I guess, attached to them. And I think they kind of need to bring them back because there's so much of the crime that happens, especially if you look at stuff that goes on in New York City. So much of that crime, there's no way those people are committing those crimes if they are sane. There's no way. And if they had a mental institute there, maybe they could help these people. I mean, you got California trying to pass laws to have these buildings so people can go shoot up drugs legally. And luckily that just happened, and that Governor Newsom, he stopped that. He said that's going to have a bad effect, which kudos to him for doing that. But they're willing to have buildings set aside for people to go to safely inject themselves with drugs. But they think there's a bad stigma to having a mental institute that actually could save somebody's life. Instead of giving them a place to go shoot up drugs basically till they kill themselves, because that's what's going to happen. They're not trying to save them. They're not trying to send them to some kind of rehab and fix them so that they can, fix their addiction. They don't do that. They don't want to fix the mental illness, but they want to give them a place to go shoot up so that they can kill themselves. But I'm kind of thinking that we need to bring the mental institutions back. I never really thought that before, but watching all this stuff and all this stuff I look at, so many people are committing crimes that there's no way they're doing it if they're sane. There is no way some of this stuff that's happening. I mean, I cover a small portion of the stuff that goes on. And I'm telling you, there's no way most of these people are doing this if they're sane. Because some of this stuff is just crazy stuff. But anyway, so back to Mardi Gras. Hopefully they get their police situation under control down in New Orleans. And hopefully Mardi Gras goes off without a hitch next, I think it's like February is when it happens. And hopefully everything goes off without a hitch on that. They're losing their police because the police can go to a better place. That's the problem. And it sounds like this mayor, from what I read, and I don't know anything about her, but it sounds like from the little bit I read of the stuff she said, that she might not be trying to fix the crime problem, because a lot of the cities, they're not really trying to fix the crime problem, but she genuinely sounds like she's concerned about the safety of the officers. Either that, or that's just an excuse she's using so that she can cancel Mardi Gras. I'm not sure. But that's all I got for today. Stay safe, America. Keep your head on a swivel. And remember, a bullet can travel over a mile unimpeded. So keep dodging those strays until these shooters get better aim. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.